Before moving to Kansas, I lived for 4 years in the very small town of Hanna, Wyoming. There in that small town, I opened a small firearms and sporting goods store in an attempt to fill a hole that I saw in the local market to contribute something that would build the town and to hopefully provide for my family's needs. I made many errors in that business venture, it being my first attempt at something like that, and I learned a lot about small business, small towns, and the economies of small towns. It was there in that setting that I conceptualized what I call the bucket theory of small town economics. Here's how it goes. A small town is like a bucket. People in town have jobs and make money, and that money is like water pouring into the bucket. The thing is, however, that people don't just keep all their money, they spend it. And when they spend their money at a local business, the money goes from one household in town to another household in town, and the water stays inside that bucket. When they spend their money outside of that small town, it's like drilling a hole in the bucket. You go do all your shopping at Sam's Club or Costco in Lenexa, there's a hole in the bucket. You go out to eat every Friday night at your favorite restaurant in Overland Park, there's another hole in the bucket. You buy your clothes from Amazon, well, there's another hole. Now, as long as the amount of money flowing in is a little more than the money flowing out, the small town economy can still be healthy. However, if you drill so many holes in your bucket that it's more of a sieve, spending all your money outside of town and next to none of it in town, then your local economy suffers and your small business community struggles to stay alive, if at all. This was just about how the town of Hanna was, where people would drive 40 miles to the next large town for just about everything, completely ignoring not only my store, but even the grocery store that was my business's next door neighbor. All the money people were making in town flowed straight through, and it was nearly impossible to keep any business venture alive, no matter how low we set our prices. When you've got a bucket with too many holes in it, losing water as fast as it's coming in, the only way to move forward is to plug up some holes and slow the flow. This is where you come in. When you decide to spend your money in town rather than out of town, you're plugging a hole and you're participating in slowing that flow of money outside of the bucket of Osawatomie's local economy. However, if you're going to be expected to spend your money in town, there needs to be something worth spending your money on in town. There needs to be businesses that are seeking to serve your needs, give you reasonable prices, and the best product and experience that they can. This is also where you come in, because when you can see that the local market of your small town is missing something, you can take action, fill that gap, and start a business and provide that product or service yourself. The tricky part is that if you're going to take that risk, the other people in town need to reciprocate and support your business effort. It can be a scary thing to open a new business in a small town, and this leads many to think that what is needed is a big business with big money to come into the town with their increased water flow because they promise to also bring a bigger bucket. Well, that sounds great. More water and a bigger bucket means that the town will thrive even more, right? Unfortunately, not necessarily. See, if you bring in that big business, they may bring in a bigger bucket and bigger money coming into town, but what they don't tell you is that attached to that big bucket is a big hose taking the vast majority of the extra cash flow or water that comes into the town away to the big company's own big bucket that is feeding their own operation. The big company coming in gives the illusion of prosperity and the feeling that nobody in town needs to worry about changing their spending habits to focus more on the local small business community. And what happens is that the small businesses can't compete. The money swirling around in the economy flows out, and the town's economy suffers, or barely maintains at best. I saw this in Wyoming as well, as one of the neighboring towns was the city of Sinclair, home of a massive Sinclair oil refinery. You know, the company with a dinosaur on the logo. Well, Sinclair certainly employs a lot of people in Sinclair, Hanna, Rawlins, and all around that entire area, but somehow everyone there is still living in old, manufactured housing, scraping the edge of poverty or barely climbing above lower middle class. It's not just about big money coming in. It's about what we build to keep the money in, how many of the holes we plug, and making sure that there isn't a pipeline taking it all away from under your nose, because guess what? Big businesses don't care about Osawatomie or investing in Osawatomie unless there's something big in it for themselves. A few people in town might get rich, but those businesses are in it for themselves, not for you. Maybe you love Osawatomie for the community, but they only love Osawatomie for the money and only for as long as the money is good. Be sure to come back for the next small town economics video tomorrow to better see why all of this is important to the future of Osawatomie and who you elect this November. Thank you for watching, and please write in Oliver Tanner for Mayor of Osawatomie.